Here we are with one of the favorite topics of internet-y videos. Snakes having fights. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a good reptile battle? Especially when that particular reptile underestimates the situation and decides to get involved with an animal that gives it a surprise beating. That's a satisfying result for everyone. Except usually the naughty bad snake, that is. Here are times snakes messed with the wrong opponent. Number 5. Mother chicken versus 3 cobras. This is not an easy one to watch. The chicken's having a really bad day, and she has to contend with not 1 but 3 flipping cobras, and they all have serious attitude problems. The fight is super risky as each of the cobras repeatedly takes a lunge at the mother hen as she attempts to keep those rude snakes away from her chicks. It looks as though she's prepared to battle till the death in order to keep these aggressive serpents away, just like most mothers would, to be fair. But this attack is relentless. As one snake lunges, another one is hot up behind it, one after another after another. Who will tire out first? Who will lose their focus? Well, it really doesn't matter much if the snakes do. That chicken doesn't exactly have a secret weapon at her disposal. She isn't harboring a venomous bite or a ninja kick under her feathers. It's just a case of hoping that enough resistance will eventually make the snakes give up and go elsewhere in search of easier pickings. Number 4. Dogs killing snake at farm. As pack animals, dogs are especially well adapted to working together as a team against a perceived threat. This duo of dogs seems to have a system in place for dealing with the naughty snake. If an individual dog happened upon a venomous snake, it would likely come off the worst from the situation, but the tag team approach of the dogs is enough to confound the cobra by drawing its attention in many different directions and causing confusion. The snake, which would usually have the upper hand in most confrontations, attempts a lunge at one dog and then another, but each time finds the other leaping forward. This double effort keeps the cobra trying to strike at the dogs one at a time, but failing as each incident draws a different dog into the mix and never allows the snake long enough to land a bite. Although the video is clearly being filmed by a person, they seem unperturbed by the dog's engagement with the deadly reptile, so we can only assume that it all ended okay for the dogs. The snake, however, was left dead in a ditch. Number 3. Python, honey badger, and jackals fighting each other. Even though this honey badger seemed to be in quite the pickle, I mean, it's never an ideal situation to have a python wrapped around you in a death embrace, but soon the tables will be turned, and it's complete carnage. That honey badger seems to be a goner, being slowly crushed to death by a massive constrictor, when suddenly a jackal rocks up, and, like a knight in shining armor, begins to lay into the snake. Inexplicably, really, since jackals and honey badgers are not generally best buddies. As the insanity unfolds, another jackal then joins in on the fun, and the snake is liberated of its lunch. Now, you may be aware that honey badgers have a lot of personality issues, we'll say. These creatures are crazy, and this one is apparently no exception. Instead of scarpering, as one might expect an animal that's just narrowly escaped the jaws of death would do, this feisty guy gets stuck in the fight as well. The opportunistic animal is not one to turn its nose up at a spot of snake for a snack, especially one that has totally hissed him off. Between the 3 animals, they manage to dispense with the python, but then a battle for the prize of a snake dinner begins. So the jackals who liberated the honey badger then become rivals for the snake. That's some kind of gratitude for you. Number 2. Squirrels are much more fiercer than they may look, and this is yet another pint-sized little squirrel with courage beyond measure. This ground squirrel in Arizona went above and beyond the usual snake evasion tactics and actually attacked the gopher snake that may have been a threat to its nest. In the end, firefighters would be called in to break up the backyard brawl between the squirrel and the snake. They shot this bonkers footage as they watched the squirrel continue to bite and literally gnaw on the surprise snake. It takes a bold rodent to lay into a constrictor snake that usually eats these fluffy-tailed little critters, and likely as not, the squirrel was, as you guessed it, a mother protecting her babies in a nearby nest. And by now, we know just how far these feisty moms will go when it comes to taking care of their kids. Much to the amusement of the gobsmacked firefighters who were still watching, the fight went on for over a half an hour, and like we've seen before, the squirrel just kept on with the battle, aiming to tire the snake out with sheer perseverance. Honestly, I think if there was a snake menacing me, I might just hope that a squirrel would step in and give me a hand. They really have got all the moves, and they never give up. Number 1. Alligator eats python. American alligators and Burmese pythons are weirdly finding themselves coming into contact with each other in the swampy environment of the Florida Everglades. The Burmese python is an invasive species, but it's been remarkably successful at establishing breeding grounds in the national park down in the south of the Sunshine State, and alligators are kind of cross about it. Yes, this is a battle for territory and for the right to be the Everglades' most badass reptile. Obviously, alligators end up winning this one. They are the best animals after all, apart from guinea pigs of course, but I digress. These two species are becoming mortal enemies as they try to take over and defend their territory. It's not unusual to see a python, which is a constrictor snake, attempting to wrap itself around the alligator's head in order to suffocate it. This is the Burmese python's best form of attack against a sizable and distinctly more bitey alligator, and for the most part, the larger alligators seem to humor these snakes' efforts and will eventually tire of being harassed, which generally results in the snake becoming an alligator appetizer. Just how often a python manages to snare an alligator for its own dinner is not really clear, but perhaps a couple of little ones might make for a nice tea. Snakes sometimes need to be taken down a peg or two. Those guys are always going about scaring people or trying to eat cute baby animals, so it's good to see some creatures taking a stand against these bullies of the animal kingdom. Which epic encounter was the most surprising to you? And what other animals do you think could take on a snake and win? Get typing in the comments below and tell me all about your ideas. Also be sure to check out the other cool stuff showing up on the screen, and I'll see you next time.